What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're going to try something a little different. I'm going to try the top 5 best things and the top 5 favorite things I have that do the same thing. Today's entry is going to be Wraths. These are things like Wrath of God that remove all creatures from the battlefield. Wraths don't need to be definitively destroyed. They can be mass bounce, or in Green's case, try to kill everything. But the rules are, I get one best and one favorite choice of each monocolor. So there could be some very good board wipes in dual color, but we're not going to cover those yet. So let's get started. In color pie order, we are starting off with white. We have Farewell as my best category. For 4 white sorcery, choose one or more. Exile all artifacts, exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, exile all graveyards. This has my best category for the obvious reason of being able to exile all threats, be they artifacts, creatures, graveyards, whatever. And the fact that you hit any number of things on this list means that it just, to me, it feels like the definitive best, but of course, it is just an opinion. Moving on to my favorite category, we have Vanquish the Horde. For 6 white sorcery, this spell costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. Destroy all creatures. You never want to cast this when there are no creatures in the battlefield, and it's very unlikely that you'll only want to cast this when there is 1 threat. So usually between all 4 players, there's at least 6 creatures in the battlefield, so this is a 2 mana board wipe. Very clean, very smooth, very easy. I really dig it. Moving on to blue's best, we have Cyclonic Rift. For 1 and a blue, instant, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, overload for 7. This is one of those board wipes that's so good that unless I'm playing what I consider to be a high power deck, I just don't put it in there. But it is just honestly kind of ban-worthy, but that's what best means. Bounce all of your opponent's non-land permanents at instant speed. I've been blown out by this card more than any other card in this list. As for favorites from blue, we have Evacuation. 3 blue, instant, return all creatures to their owner's hands. Nice and simple, just bounce all creatures. And the fact that it's an instant means that it's really good as a combat trick, or if player B kills player C, post damage after they're dead, bounce all their shit with Evacuation. I really like this card. There's not a lot of blue board wipes to pick from. In the best category for black, we have Damnation. 2 black, sorcery, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. Some would say Toxic Deluge is better because it's 1 less mana, but if there's some big threat on the board, I don't want to pay a billion life to get rid of it. Damnation is just very consistent and just very straightforward. Onto my favorite category for black is Decree of Pain. For 6 black sorcery, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Cycling for 3 black. When you cycle Decree of Pain, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. I love the modality of this card, the fact that you can cycle it, which makes it an uncounterable small board wipe, because it's not being cast when you cycle it. So you cycle it, draw a card, and you give -2/-2 to the entire table at instant speed. That can be great for creatures who have already been dealt damage, or to sweep all the tinies. And if not, you can use Decree of Pain's 8-side to draw a bunch of cards and wipe out the entire board. I mean, 8 is a lot, but as long as it's not countered, you're going to get your money's worth. The best category for red is Blasphemous Act. For 8 and a red sorcery, this spell costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act does 13 damage to each creature. Similar to our white wipe, there's usually a fair amount of creatures in the battlefield. This is typically a 1 mana Wrath, which lets you rebuild first. Not a lot to say. It's a very common card. Onto my favorite red Wrath, Delayed Blast Fireball. For 1 red instant, Delayed Blast Fireball deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If this spell was cast from exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control instead. Foretell for 4 red. As always, I always prefer my things to be instants, and modality is always nice. If you cast this for 3, it does 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control, which is again great for sweeping smalls. But if you are approaching mid to late game, you want to hold up 6 mana for usually a myriad of things. You don't just want to hold up for 6, like, oh, well, if they do something crazy, I have this 6. If they do something dumb or not so dumb, then I have, I don't know, draw 4 or whatever. But this does 5 damage to each creature and each opponent that's not yours. It can result in killing people, which I've definitely done before, and it usually wraths the board. Finally, we have Green's Best, Azuri's Predation. For 5 green, sorcery. For each creature your opponents control, create a 4/4 Phyrexian Beast token. Each of those tokens fight a different one of those creatures. I don't like this card too much, to be fair. I'd rather have a series of fight spells than have one big blowout one, but this is one of Green's only board wipes, so the options are not high. But dealing effectively 4 damage to each opponent's creature, and everything that does die you get to keep a body, and those are all untapped. It's not the worst, but 8 mana is pretty steep for a board wipe that doesn't draw you a billion cards like Decree does. And finally, my favorite green board wipe is Apex Algisaur. When Apex Algisaur enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control in Rage. Whenever it is dealt damage, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So it'll enter, fight something with at least 1 power, usually kill it, then it gets to fight again, then it gets to fight again, then it gets to fight again. Ideally, you want it to fight until it would die, and then just don't let it fight that last fight. Or if you really need to, you can use it to kill off something big. But I like my board wipe that sticks around and then proceeds to board wipe more. Thanks again for checking out my video. As always, these are just opinions. There is no definitive this is the best, but these are just what I've deemed as the best in my experience. And yeah, let me know what you think. If I should keep doing this series, or you know, with different things like top 10 best ramp spells, top 10 whatever. And keep me posted. Have a nice day.